You know that feeling, right? You're on a late night drive, you're starving, and there is just nothing around. But what happens when the one place you find turns out to be a trap? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down an absolutely terrifying story about four friends whose desperate search for food led them straight into a supernatural nightmare they would never, ever forget. So, this is the aftermath. These people are still haunted by what happened, and it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What could possibly happen on a simple road trip to leave you with goosebumps 2 whole months later? To figure that out, we gotta go back to the very beginning of their journey. All right, so every good horror story has to have that perfect setup. And this one, it starts on a dark, lonely highway. A classic setting that just screams, you're vulnerable. Our group of friends isn't just on a drive. They are getting more and more desperate by the minute. And that desperation, it's gonna mess with their judgment. Okay, so let's meet the crew. Kaushik, Shweta, Jubail, and Tanisha. They're 4 hours deep into a long drive from Pune to Goa, and their situation is getting pretty bad. It's late, they're nowhere near their destination, and they are starving. And to make matters worse, they're on this totally desolate highway with nothing but trees for miles. Not a great spot to be in. And right when they're about to give up all hope, what happens? Technology to the rescue. Jubail spots a restaurant on Google Maps just 3 kilometers away. I mean, talk about a miracle, right? They're totally relieved, already thinking about what they're going to order. But, in a horror story, when a perfect solution just appears out of nowhere, that's usually the first sign of a trap. But of course, the second they pull up, that feeling of relief, it just evaporates. The building itself is weird. It looks ancient, but it has this bright, modern, open sign glowing. And this is the exact moment the whole story just pivots, and those red flags start popping up. And here it is, the first huge red flag. The map promised a bustling restaurant, packed with people. But when they look, the parking lot is completely empty. It's just their car. That massive difference between what the app promised and what they're actually seeing, that's what creates that first, really deep feeling of, uh-oh, something's not right here. Things get even weirder when they step inside. The place is full of people, just like the app said, but the vibe is just all wrong. It's dead silent. Nobody's talking. They just eat, and every so often, they look over at the new arrivals with this unsettling smile. The story is playing with our senses here, or really the lack of them. That silence, it's way more terrifying than any loud noise could ever be. And then, they do the one thing you should never, ever do in a horror movie. They split up. Jubail needs to use the restroom, so he heads down a hallway. And right away, he notices this horrible smell. Not like a normal dirty bathroom, but like something died in there. At the same time, Kaushik, who can't get a signal, steps outside to call his mom, leaving Shweta and Tanisha all alone at the table. Okay, so splitting them up? Absolutely crucial. Because now they're all isolated from each other, and each one of them is about to discover a different, horrible piece of this puzzle. And believe me, what they're about to find is a whole lot worse than just a creepy vibe. What Jubail finds is just pure nightmare fuel. He's in that foul-smelling bathroom, he goes to wash his hands, turns on the tap, and out pours this thick, dark blood. I mean, can you even imagine? It takes something so simple, so everyday, and makes it absolutely terrifying. Naturally, he runs. At the exact same time, Kaushik is getting a warning of his own, but this one is way more direct. A guy stumbles out of the restaurant, clutching his stomach, and collapses right there in front of him. His dying words are a crystal clear, chilling message: don't eat the food, it's poisoned. So yeah, that bad feeling they had, it's now a confirmed life or death danger. But back inside, Shweta and Tanisha have no idea, no clue about the blood in the bathroom or the dead guy outside. For them, the special dish has just been served. They're about to finally eat, and the suspense is just unbearable, right? Because we know what's coming, and they don't. Shweta lifts the metal lid, but what's underneath? It isn't food. It's a man's severed head. And in that exact same instant, Jubail and Kaushik burst back in, screaming about blood and poison, but the damage is done. All those weird, creepy little puzzle pieces just slam together in the most horrific way imaginable. What follows is just pure chaos. The friends scream, they're scrambling for the door, and the whole illusion just shatters. The other guests, the waiter, they all transform into these ghostly apparitions, their laughter echoing as the friends flee for their lives. They speed away, and in the rearview mirror, they watch as the entire building just dissolves into ruins, confirming this was never a real place to begin with. They don't stop driving until they finally reach their hotel in Goa. When they tell the receptionist what happened, they expect him to laugh. Instead, he turns pale. He knows the story. They've just survived an encounter with a local legend known as the Ghost Restaurant, and he tells them the tragic tale from 20 years ago. This is where we get the horrific backstory. 20 years ago, this was a real restaurant. A waiter named Satish, furious after being denied a raise, poisoned the food, killing all the guests and all the staff. When the owner tried to intervene, Satish murdered him too, by decapitating him. This wasn't just a haunting, it was the site of a mass murder. So the restaurant they saw was a phantom, an illusion. The receptionist explains that the spirits of everyone who died that night are trapped there, forced to replay their final moments for eternity. It's a ghostly trap on National Highway 48 that appears to unsuspecting travelers, luring them into the very same nightmare. Finally, they had an explanation. They had stumbled into the ghostly reenactment of a mass murder. But understanding the what and the why did nothing to erase the horror of what they had just seen. You know, an experience like that leaves a permanent scar. As the narrator explains, even 2 months later, the memory is just as vivid. The sight of the severed head, the ghostly laughter. It's a trauma that still gives them goosebumps, a haunting reminder of their night at the Phantom Restaurant. Ultimately, stories like this tap into a really primal fear, the fear of the unknown that lurks just off the familiar path. It's a reminder that sometimes the most terrifying things can be found when you're just looking for a place to eat. Which leaves us with one final, chilling question. What legends haunt the roads you travel?